Team Cherry, the geniuses behind Hollow Knight and forever coming soon, Hollow Knight Silksong. Team Cherry is a small indie group in Adelaide, Australia. Their mission? To create exciting worlds for us to explore and conquer. They are currently comprised of 3 people, Ari Gibson, William Pellin, and Jack Vine. But despite their small size, their games are quite the opposite. Massive worlds with deep lore that anyone can explore to their heart's content. How did these creators start out? What led into the creation of one of the best indie games in the world? How did they live upside down? Welcome everybody to the ultimate Team Cherry documentary. In order to understand how Team Cherry came to be, we need to go back a bit and see how the co-founders of Hollow Knight started out. Ari started out as an animator for the People's Republic of Animation, a studio in Adelaide, Australia, formed in 2003 that has since developed award-winning short films and other animations. Ari Gibson eventually left the company to form his own animation studio, Mechanical Apple, a 2D animation studio he started with his colleague Jason Pamet. This studio used a 2D animation pipeline that Ari developed to create stunning animations. While Ari was developing his animation skills, William Pellin was working on his coding as a freelance website designer. He had some experience with animation and art, but not nearly as much as Ari. These two had known each other long before Hollow Knight was even a concept. They had worked together from time to time on Game Jam, which are events in which game developers attempt to make a video game that fits a specific theme within a short time frame, usually only lasting a day or so. And for one of those game jams, an idea for a great game popped into these creators' heads. During the London Dare Game Jam 27, the team was working on a game that would fit the theme of 10 seconds. Ari and William, with the help of their friend Rowan, came up with the idea of making a little bug who had to eat every 10 seconds or he would die. A very simple concept, but why the bugs? Well, to quote Ari Gibson himself,
and the reason you're a bug is because they're small and they're really simple to draw.
This is perfect because during a game jam, time is of the essence. If you don't need to spend as much time on the character design, you can spend more time fleshing out other parts. The end result was a game called Hungry Night, which you can still play to this day on Newgrounds. After the team had finished the game jam, they realized they really liked the characters and world they had built off the game. They made some concept art and had some ideas on what to do with the game, but for a while that idea stayed on the shelf as they focused on other things. Until another game jam came along with the theme Beneath the Surface. Ari found this gem of a theme and called up William to ask if he could be there on time for the jam. William liked the idea and even agreed it was a great theme, but unfortunately he was busy the week of the jam, so he wouldn't be able to make it. That's when they decided instead of doing it, instead of doing the game jam, they'd make a game with this theme over the course of a couple months or so, in which they would use the same character and world that they did in Hungry Night. A couple months went by until the game had reached a point where they realized they could make a full-fledged game out of this and turn a decent profit. This eventually led to the creation of Hollow Knight. With a great idea and a couple months of part-time development, they made their own website, a YouTube channel, and took the Kickstarter to begin funding for their game. For about 30 days in 2014, from November 18th to December 18th, they made over 50,000 Australian dollars, which is equal to around 40,000 US dollars. The Kickstarter contained a variety of awards, ranging from having your name on a stone tablet to being a full-fledged character in a Glade of Hope, later renamed to the Spirit's Glade. One of the most intriguing rewards to me is the playable demo of Hollow Knight. I wonder what that was like. Many of these rewards include the ability to make something with the creators that will be put into the game in some sense. It has been stated that Cloth, Tiso, and Marissa were actually backer-made characters. It's so cool to see how the fans shaped the game as a whole, and it only makes me slightly jealous. How will my Hollow Knight OC ever get into Silksong now? But it makes you wonder how much of Hollow Knight was made by the fans. Along with these rewards, the Kickstarter also included goals for backers to work towards. The most interesting of which include a second and third playable character, with Hornet as the first, Zote being teased as the latter, as well as funding for the game to be launched on the Wii U and PS Vita, and many other goals for development on eras like White Palace, and Coliseum of Fools. Some of these areas, like the Abyss, didn't receive enough funding, but were put into the game anyway. After the great success of the Kickstarter, they began creating a proper company, brought in their friend David Kazi to help out, and began development on Hollow Knight full-time. David worked mainly on programming and the technical side of things. I wish I could tell you more about David Kaji and what his background was prior to Hollow Knight, but unfortunately all I found was that he was, quote, an experienced programmer, project manager, and all-around good guy. He's passionate and focused, and it's worth getting extremely excited because thanks to him getting involved, Hollow Knight is going to be a much better game. A quick Google search shows nothing about him other than his time working on Hollow Knight, and as much as I tried to dig, I could find nothing about this character, which leads me to believe that David Kazi doesn't actually exist. I'm onto your secrets, Team Cherry. It's only a matter of time before I reveal them to the entire world. Now, in early February 2015, they had gotten a new office and moved the game over from Stencil to Unity. This gave them much more freedom in what they could do and sped up development quite a bit. On their website, they say that they planned on releasing the game in the first half of 2015, so fans wouldn't have to wait long for the release. However, I have a feeling that won't work out. Also, I feel it's important to note that at this time, they sent out a Hollowness lore document to backers over $75. Moss Bag, eat your heart out. You'll never understand the full lore of Lobster Lancer. Now we got a game, some lore, and funding, but one thing was missing. Music. So in March, they hired Christopher Larkin to make a soundtrack for the game. Christopher Larkin had worked with Ari Gibson in the past on some music for his short films, so Ari believed Chris would be a good fit for the role. Christopher Larkin had already received numerous awards for his compositions and scores in short films. He has even composed a soundtrack for well-known games such as Pac-Man 256. He was always very passionate about music from a young age, and a few years of experience under his belt, Hollow Knight's world was about to get a lot livelier. When Team Cherry announced that Chris would be joining them on the team, they included 2 demos for the game's music, and while they are quite different from what is in the final game, the pieces still resemble the theme and mood of Hollow Knight very well. Now, with that new addition to the cast, Hollow Knight was starting to take off. In June of that 2015, Team Cherry gave us a project update showing us just how much more polished Hollow Knight had become. Thanks to Unity, the team was able to make much more vibrant environments, and really make the world of Hollow Knight feel lived in. A month later, the Hollow Knight demo was shown off for the first time at a convention called AVCon, a video game and anime convention in Adelaide. This is when the team began to recognize the scope of their game. Before the convention, the team had their first playtest. An area that they believed during development to only take around half an hour, took an hour and a half, and that was with them knowing which way to go. During the convention, one playtester beat the whole demo, beating 4 bosses along the way, in 2 hours. The game was becoming a lot bigger than the team originally envisioned. They even got the opportunity to attend PAX Australia as a part of their indie showcase. Then in October of that year, the beta was released to the public. Well, the public who had paid over $45 on Kickstarter, not everybody. This beta was well received, and the first few areas shown resemble the final game very well. Hollow Knight was coming along nicely, and with PAX Australia coming up, it had a promising future. On the day of PAX Australia, Hollow Knight was a resounding success. Team Cherry's booth was drawing large crowds, drawn in by its charming art style and staying for the incredible gameplay. From the reviews and interviews at the convention, we can see a very positive response to the game. At this time, Team Cherry realizes that they won't be able to reach their goal of releasing the game in 2015. Although the enemies are reportedly almost finished, the environment is fully traversable, and backer-made characters are beginning to be put in. Team Cherry now pushes release back into 2016. Surely they can make the game by then. Team Cherry is far along in the development of Hollow Knight entering 2016, adding some polish to some areas and menus, alongside other stretch goals and backer content they need to finish. But why not add another member to lighten the load? In July of 2016, they added Matthew Griffin to the cast, a marketing director and game designer that has worked on great games like Stardew Valley, Risk of Rain, and so much more. With experience such as that, Hollow Knight was in good hands. Speaking of Hollow Knight, there aren't any major changes to talk about for 2016, so let's skip ahead a little. It's now late 2016, and it's getting close to the game's planned release. And although they overshot releasing in 2016, it's about done, and so early 2017 is the new release date. And with 2017 comes Nintendo Switch. But wait, wasn't Hollow Knight being released on the Wii U? Well, yes, but after a long talk with Nintendo, Hollow Knight is now moving to Nintendo Switch. With that problem solved, Hollow Knight is currently in the bug testing stage. And when I say that, I don't mean testing Elder Bug's patience. No, Team Cherry is making sure everything works correctly and doing some game balancing. And then, on February 26th of 2017, it was finished. Hollow Knight was released on Windows. With that date, a big launch party began finishing up all their Kickstarter promises, making merchandise, and kept hard at work making Hollow Knight for Linux, Mac, and Nintendo Switch. Then, something amazing happened. Within a month, the game had over 65,000 copies sold. It received a 10 out of 10 on Destructoid and a 9 out of 10 on Game Informer, and people loved it. The game was well worth the wait, so to keep the ball rolling, Team Cherry began work making free content packs for the game, the first of which was Hidden Dreams, released on August 3rd, 2017. This was the first of the free, and also the smallest of the bunch, only including a couple new bosses, a new stag station, and the Dreamgate ability. Next up was the Grim Troupe, releasing only 2 months after the first content pack. This included an entire new quest line, several new bosses, enemies, and lots more. With that fantastic end to 2017, the only thing that could make it better was Hollow Knight selling over 500,000 copies. People everywhere were picking up the game, making fan art, and creating a wonderful community. So with 2018 coming up, the future of Hollow Knight was shining brighter than the radiance itself. With 2018 brought a new update, the Lifeblood update, which started when Team Cherry was making some changes to the game's code for the Switch release. But as they tend to do, they began adding more quality of life updates along with other optimization and performance updates. So Team Cherry decided it would be a good idea to update the game with these changes for all platforms. On June of that year, Team Cherry released on Switch, finally meeting that promise they made 3 years ago. With that done, Team Cherry was now working hard on Content Pack 4, Gods and Glory. Gods and Glory was a boss rush game mode taking place in the Pantheon of Hollownest, with all new bosses and challenges to conquer. But even as the last Hollow Knight pack, Team Cherry still has one more member to announce. Jack Vine. Remember the guy I talked about at the beginning of this video? Yeah, he's finally on the team. Jack was going to be taking over for David, who left to make a new game called XO1. Jack was a programmer who mainly worked in C# and Unity. His work can be traced back all the way to 2015, when he worked in a game called Cybernetic, a randomly generated tower defense game. All of his experience must have paid off, as Team Cherry said that Jack has been, quote, instrumental in Hollow Knight's console releases and the development of its huge final free content pack, Godmaster. After Jack was announced, Godmaster released almost a month later. A month after that, Team Cherry announced and released Hollow Knight Voidheart Edition for Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Hollow Knight Voidheart was the final version of Hollow Knight to be released, making Hollow Knight on about every platform imaginable. Although I'm still waiting for a Hollow Knight port for the Samsung Smart Fridge. You guys should get on that. But other than that, Hollow Knight was all but done. All the content packs were out, and you would assume that would be the end of the story. But Team Cherry had one more promise to fulfill. During the Kickstarter, Team Cherry planned to make Hornet a playable character in Hollow Knight. They had planned on making a separate area to explore and conquer for the Hornet DLC, but it kept getting bigger and bigger. Eventually, it was impossible for this to remain DLC anymore. It had become a game of its own. But as soon as this game was announced, we were all left in the dark. The last post from Team Cherry is from 2019. It's been 3 years, with few updates for the game. In the past, Team Cherry has done a good job at keeping fans updated with progress reports and area showcases. While Team Cherry has said a little about Silksong here and there, fans have been left without any real news for years. Yet, that almost seems like the intention. To quote Team Cherry's post-E3 wrap, we've been tight-lipped on Silksong gameplay details, and for the most part, we want to keep it that way. Discovery is a huge part of Hollow Knight, so we don't want to spoil all the new systems and surprises. Team Cherry wants fans to go into this game almost blind. That being said, I don't believe Team Cherry meant to keep fans in the dark for so long. From the very start, Team Cherry has always aimed to give frequent updates, and for them to seemingly stop without any explanation whatsoever is uncharacteristic of them. This absence has led many fans to worry for Silksong, some even going as far as saying that Silksong is dead, and Team Cherry isn't saying anything because they don't want people to be disappointed. Team Cherry has been silent for so long. It's hard to get your hopes up for anything. Some people are desperate for any sort of news, just so they can have some idea of what's going on. Entire channels have been based around reporting on Silksong news day by day, every time to report the same thing. This is Squid West, your host for today, bringing you your daily Silksong news. There has been no news to report for Silksong today. This concludes your daily Silksong news. That channel is currently on day 444 as of the time of writing. The wait is too long, and as much as I have faith in Team Cherry that they are making Silksong into a great game, the silence is incredibly loud. Even just a short update confirming that they were still working on the game would be better than nothing. At the end of the day, Team Cherry is working hard on Silksong, but it's going to take them a while. And all we can do is hope it's worth the wait when it finally does come. But until that day, we will forever be waiting for Silksong news. Wait a minute. Is that? Oh my god!